it and seek me out. Number two, if the expansion of the ICT infrastructure can go deeper into rural environments to allow rural innovators as well to come online. Number three, if we can expand more sandboxes, so labs, hubs, maker spaces, places where we can try out a few things, we can connect capital.
Mentorship and coaching for that group of women and youth, but then also affordable internet data bundles. So most of people are still not there. They're not using all these digital things that we're talking about just because it's not as affordable to them. But then also use, somebody said about use champions, use women platforms. Kwenye vikoba and all that. That's where you find women and also community meetups to get access to women and youth that you can train in this space. Availability of devices. So as much as there are so many devices, Huawei and all that, but still they're not as available to everybody. So if you can increase that, but also digital tech. So having such platforms might entice. So having such platforms might entice women to actually come into this space. And then also there's a lot of venting around the education system. So overhauling the education system. The third question was around how can African markets attract and retain talents. So all this digitalization that we're talking about, we still don't have a lot of experts in that space. So how can we actually attract and retain talent? So investment in that technology infrastructure. So we still have places where we do not have access to this. So like the rural areas, so that's one way if we invest in that infrastructure. But then having policies and regulations that can actually protect those a bit. There's one person who was talking about web designing. Back then used to pay a lot. Today it's not paying as much. So if there's a way we can get like a minimum wage in tech, that will be good. Working environment, having incentives in the way that people are employed, that would entice people to stay in that space, but then also using the normal talents competitions. That would also create the awareness and attract people into this space. So tech talents, clubs, some competitions around youth, that would help. And then the final one was around, I think, what are the models? I'm not seeing the question. What are some of the concrete models that can develop talent in Africa? So one of the model was around government. So if the government can have like some sort of a tax holiday around startups, just like what Zanzibar has done, that would sort of, it's a concrete model, yeah, to entice these talents to stay in Africa, to have startup visas. That means you are able to import some expertise through that visa and learn from them, but then also having a risk appetite investment, an investment that can really like handsomely fund some talents to develop innovations. Attachment and apprenticeship, English, that part. So, so we're talking a bit about having I think we wrote here, the big five. They have this in Kenya. So somebody knowing that if you are studying software engineering, you actually have somewhere to escalate to grow to talent-wise. So attracting such companies in this space might it's a model of growing talent. And then the likes of aligning priorities. So we know about this e-governance, we know we've just had some sensor in Tanzania, but then probably they used 10,000 or something tablets, but then there was somebody in my table who really, through his career, I think he really wanted to know or to study about the phone itself, right? But then he has never had access to a phone that he could take apart and do that. So having government align itself with maybe some assembling, to do some tech assembling here, and people in the universities can actually use those facilities, in whether it's attachments or something, to learn around that. Yeah, and then the kinds of silicon da were mentioned. So bringing what? Bringing players into one place and strengthening that ecosystem is one way of actually developing talents in Africa. With that, I would like to present.
Meza namba mbili. Somebody lead us in how we are going to do this. Everyone who seated at table number 2. Actually, okay, maybe we're going to do something different then. Somebody to give us energy. Something that we all have to stand up. Karibu.
I am Mwalimu Sophia Mkopi from Masasa FDC Mtwara. In our colleges, we are offering many courses. So, one among of those courses, we are teaching those who are responsible for children. So, we used to play every time. So today I want to teach you how to play Kitomondo. Yeah. Kitomondo, I want to sing, then you can do what I'm doing. Yeah, all of you. Kitomondo. Now, I want to demonstrate first.
Wow, thank you so much. I think that has brought new energy. Any questions? Any concerns? What is Kitomondo? Oh. Okay. Great. So I had a question. I just need to be sure how I wrote it. So it was around the apprenticeship. I just wanted a clarification. Actually, it's not a question. Are we suggesting that there should be like a formalized structure for apprenticeships, especially for the big tech companies in Tanzania? Like they should be doing this maybe as part of their CSR. No, I'm asking, the point here is, are we suggesting that they should be doing that? Okay. Okay. We can start with the ones we already have. Thank you. All right, so now we are going to table number 1. Mihayo. Table Mihayo, karibu. Oh, okay. He doesn't follow instructions. Okay. Yes, you will.
And your name is?
Gasa Lucas. Gaston Jera.
Okay, so our big question was the business and investment opportunities in the African market. And I want to apologize for using less paper than Edgar, wherever Edgar is. So the first question we're looking to answer is one of the first things we did was we defined what an investor is and what we understand an investor to be. So someone who gives money and gets something in return. We then looked at where we are from and how many regions are represented today. So it's not just Dar es Salaam, which is really good. So we had a rural and an urban perspective. We asked ourselves three really big questions. One was, how do we support our own innovators? # support our own. If we're thinking about somebody else to support us, how do we support ourselves? The second question we asked ourselves was, how many of us are actually using Tanzanian-built applications? Illegal or illegal ones, it doesn't matter. But there are some illegal ones, we learned. How many are using Tanzanian-built applications? And we found on, I think, 3 tables, 1 or 2 people, that's it. I then gave out 100 million shillings to some people. If you didn't get money, I'm sorry. But I gave out 100 million shillings to some people and said, where will you invest this money in a Tanzanian startup or SME? And we struggled to think of Tanzanian startups and SMEs besides our own businesses. Everybody wants to fund themselves, but when we thought about funding other people, we struggled. So just something to think about. So what are investors and partners looking for in African businesses? Scalability, revenue growth. We all agreed on that. Human capital. And I think this has come up from the other groups as well. And we thought about competency, discipline, ethics, and integrity. These are important things. You can't take the money you get from investment and buy a house or buy a Prado. It has to go back into your business. The business environment needs to be friendly, needs to be open, transparent. We have to have regulations and policies. Why are they coming to Africa? Because they're coming for something they cannot get anywhere else. A solution that they cannot get somewhere else. It's an open market. It's a blank slate. We need to have a vision and a mission. Business sustainability came up over and over again as being really important. They're coming for markets and customers. We have a unique market and customer base across the continent. One of the other things that came back is, what are investors looking for? Commitment from the team and credibility. Goes back to why human capital is so important. Another thing that came up from all our groups that was important was that there needs to be supportive infrastructure. So we're talking social services like hospitals. We're talking about maji, umeme, harbors, ports, roads, the entire value chain. And then we decided that what we need is a vibrant ecosystem. So we need a certain type of ecosystem, and all of these things have to be present in the ecosystem. Then we looked at what are the perceived barriers. And for all the groups, perceived barriers and barriers were overlapping. Where are the investors coming from? What kind of lens do they have? The transparency that we need as startups. That's something that is a perceived barrier. Again, logistics and the value chain came up. Lack of belief in our own products and in our own solutions. And we saw that on our table when we checked how many of us actually use Tanzanian-built applications and services. Failure, sometimes we fail if we're an engineer maybe, we're not used to public speaking. It came up that we fail to sell the idea or sell our product in the right way. Failure to build a track record. We don't dare to participate in exhibitions, either physical or online. There's a lack of access to information, there's a lack of transparency. Exploitation by investors. This was something everybody agreed on. That if you don't read the contract and the fine print, there is a chance that you could be exploited, and that this was a fear for a lot of people. IT infrastructure and connectivity needs to be better. So then we came into something that we all couldn't agree on, and we were all, I think, a little divided. How can we engage the diaspora? So diaspora are Tanzania that are living in another country. Maybe or maybe they don't have a Tanzanian passport anymore. Maybe or maybe they went there illegally or illegally. We don't ask those questions. But we looked at, 3 things came up. One, why are we asking other people to invest in our ecosystem? Why aren't we investing ourselves? Another thing that we were not agreed on is why invest? Why should you invest in this ecosystem? Why should you invest in our own startups? And then, what about us as Tanzanians? We're talking about them. What about us? Are we investing back into our ecosystem? So some of the ways we thought we could engage diaspora is special incentives, maybe dual citizenship, although we were divided on dual citizenship. Tax benefits. We need a hashtag legit, right? That was it. Hashtag legit Tanzania network of startups. We need a convenient payment gateway. If somebody wants to give a startup money, how are they doing that? We need to appreciate our diaspora contributions. So not just us as an ecosystem, but the government needs to appreciate diaspora contributions. We need to change mindset and expose diaspora to what we're doing here. And we can do this via an online platform. We can do this via annual gatherings. Somebody else said hashtag patriotism. Right? That was another one. So maybe one of the really cool ideas that came up was a one-stop investment opportunity map. So a digital platform that connects diaspora to startups. And then we took the easy way out. Question number 4, what concrete processes connect investors and African businesses? We answered in question number 1 and question number 3. So that was us. And now I'm going to ask you guys to share one learning from what we did on when you came to our table. Something you learned.
Okay, something I learned from the table of Madam.
Maybe when okay, basically, let me put this simple. When we sat down in her table, she gave us a question like, how many of us we use a mobile application that are built by Tanzanians? And among many of us, we don't use them. So I think the problem, if you're speaking for us to grow, maybe to grow our ecosystem and whatever, we should start by first believing what we are building ourselves. So from that experience, there is kind of like a problem even in ourselves. There are a lot of applications that are built by Tanzanians, but we don't believe in them and we don't use them. So if we speak of these meetups, maybe how can we grow or whatever, we should start first by using what others are built in our own local environment. So that's what I can say. Thank you.
Okay, well, to me, it's just simple. She challenged me about $100 million. If I have, or if she have $100 million, which startup maybe I can support. So that's what I learned Most of us, we just mentioned the startups of others. But to me, it was something that ilikuwa inanila inside, like ina maana mimi nashindwa kuichukua hiyo milioni moja to raise something. So that's what I learned.
Thank you. All right. Before questions, this table. Who wants to lead us? Tutapata ya Zanzibar sasa.
Basi tunyanyuke na sie. Tutaimba kidogo. Tutasema asante sana kwa kazi bora uliofanya. Asante. Haya, kwa sote. Asante sana kwa kazi bora uliofanya. Asante.
Okay, are there any questions, comments? Do you disagree? I want to say thank you for the person who is giving me 100 million shillings for our lab, Ziringa. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so if we're done, can we get a drum roll, please? For the last one, but not the least, Mr. Babu Mihayo Wilmore. Don't be shy, Mihayo. They won't bite you. Oh, it's true. Iku, can we get the tech to project? Yeah. We did a drum roll for Mihayo because he's so important.
Sikabenipa cable. TV imezima. Imeenda standby. Imerara. Okay. Nice. Okay. So our question was towards a common digital market and a connected startup ecosystem. So based on the colors, you can see that the blue is question number 1, the orange is question number 2, and the gray is question number 3, and the yellow is question number 4. And at the bottom there's a series of answers that came about, but what I was really looking for was, where are the spikes? Because we all seem to be saying the same thing, even if we take the data from the other groups. Utakuta either we have an answering bias, kwamba tulivyokuwa tunazunguka tunaanza kuchoka, which Iku got rid of simply because she gave us different numbers. So it's very unlikely that tumepata majibu yale yale. Lakini swali letu la kwanza ilikuwa ni, what key features should exist in a common market and a connected ecosystem? So if we look at question number 1, you see there's very clear spikes, same flani flani. And what I would be interested in is in this section, which talks about business partnerships and infrastructure, and then legal and policy seems to be coming up in a very big way. Hizi moja moja hizi tunaweza tukazi ignore, lakini tuangalie hizi sehemu kwamba pamoja na kwamba ni maswali tofauti, wote tumejibu. Kwa mfano question number 2 imesema, what are the key barriers to connecting the markets and ecosystems? Si ndio? Unaona tena question number 2 inakuja sehemu zile zile. Hizi unaona kama hapa inasema infrastructure, human capital, business partnerships, and then also unaona networking and access to information imekuja in a very big way. And then you have question number 3 says, how can we engage grassroots actors in both continents to interact? So I like to look at this area. It says digital platforms, meetings, and networking, and then also PPP framework. PPP and frameworks, meaning kwamba tutengeneze makubaliano ambayo yatajenga uaminifu. And then on question number 4, what concrete steps will help connect the ecosystems? Again, question number 4, unaona hii kubwa sana hapa, na unaona legal na policy. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha kwamba wote tunaogopa kwamba hatuna chungu cha kubeba haya mahusiano vizuri. So we need to build that framework of doing so. In a different graph, you see something similar, whereby in the gray, it just says environment. And then under environment, it says human capital, infrastructure, and business partnerships. So we are aware that the two continents need to create a conducive environment to kufanya biashara pamoja. One of the things that came up that I kept asking people, I was like, okay, sawa, you can do policies, you can do frameworks, but what about when you want to go to Italy? An Italian can come to Africa very easily, or come to Tanzania very easily. Can you go to Italy? Sindio? Niwauliza hilo swali. So environment is important, which then led us to legal. Another group, nikaeleza, what is the difference between a bilateral and a unilateral agreement? So policies, engage the government. So that also came up in a big way. Another issue is networking and access to information. Kuna mtu very creatively akasema language barrier. They speak Italian, we speak English and Kiswahili. You want to do business, how is that going to work? Mtabaki tu buongiorno, 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 habari, habari. How's that going to work? And then of course in another big way you see IP ownership and common brand. There were groups, not some, but some people within the groups discussed an issue around, okay, what is the common brand? Akitoka Mtanzania ambaye amepita kwenye hii program, will they be the same as the Italian who went through the same program? Do you have the same common shared values? And then of course then the digital operational zone, free movement of people, common currency, subscribers, are our subscribers ready? Sindio? Wateja wapo kununua hivi vitu, wateja wapo kununua vitu kule, wateja wapo kununua vitu huku. Payment systems and quality assurance, and then digital platforms. Sana. Do you want me to email it to you? No.
Thank you very much. So somebody from this table now, all the way from there.
Okay, so first, so I'll do different. I'll just say it was a pleasure meeting our coordinator at the table number 1. We learned table manners. The house rules before everything. But he's fun. He knows what he's talking about. So it's just us to learn and, to keep in touch. He's a straight guy. He don't want you to go around. Just go straight, answer the question you ask. Don't add anything more. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Now, lead us in.
Exercise. Then 4 factorial, because I don't know anything that I can sing. 4 factorial. Yeah.
Nasema tupige yale makofi ambayo ni class, kwamba mtu umekaa unapiga makofi and then we stand up. Tunapiga makofi and then tunaangalia tunasema yes, good, wow. Like that.
Can you read it? Tuongoze sasa. Sababu tunataka kushoto kulia. Tuongoze.
Yaani nasema hivi, tupige yale makofi ambayo ni class, kwamba tunapiga makofi tukiwa tumekaa and then we stand up. Tunapiga makofi and then we look left and right to say words like good, wow, excellent, yeah.
Ndio hiyo kwamba lazima demonstrate. So manne tunasimama. Okay, then yes.
Wow. So thank you so much, guys. This was amazing from all of you, because what was presented here ni mawazo ya wote, si ndio? Kila mtu amechangia, and I really hope you're not leaving this room today not having contributed your thoughts. And I hope we also had more time to do that even during lunch. And of course, we've made connections, so we're going to stay in touch. But now we're going to wrap up with our colleagues from Bologna, and I think they're already live, so we will join them, and we'll also share what the amazing discussions that happened here today. So, karibu, I think our technical team, we're ready to join them. Kiko. So we are online, we are waiting for them to start, then to proceed.